What is up, guys? It is Stu, and it's another episode of the What the Fuck Gym Talk podcast. And I have my two new friends that I had a chance to interact with digitally, meet in person in Chicago, and I'm super fucking pumped. They took the time out of their busy as hell schedule to come on the podcast. I got Marc Howe and Lauren Rantala, and you two are again, just planning for my Chicago trip. I'm excited to meet Mo. I'm going to do the whole thing, see the first High Rocks race, and then my phone was listening to me and it just was like, you need to watch this video that they just posted. And it's a YouTube video and it's long. And I never watch anything start to finish. A movie with my girl or a fucking podcast I want to listen. I skim everything. I watched that entire fucking video you guys posted where you had kind of a tell-all about how you kind of came from this very dark past and then to where you are now. You guys were the 2022 couples High Rocks world champions, correct?
That's right.
Yeah,
I can't believe you made it through the whole thing.
I literally was lying in bed, and Jess was like, "The fuck are you watching?" I'm like, I'm in this. Like, I am watching this thing, and like, it's not like there was cinematic elements to it. It's not like you had B-roll and all this. It was such a good fucking story. I'm gonna put the link up for everyone to listen to this. And I want you to go real. If anyone's listening to this, I want you to go watch the whole thing. And trust me, it captured my interest and my attention for that long. I think a lot of people find it entertaining and very informative and very empowering if they've ever been in this situation or maybe are currently dealing with this situation. But I'm going to just turn it over to you guys if you would. I've already given a nice little pre-roll to who you guys are in the High Rocks world and stuff like that. But I want you just to give some context to that story, which is, again, I was just so impressed with the ball. I mean, that's ballsy to get out there and just fucking drop all that out there that, was probably a skeleton in your closet for a long time.
I mean, it definitely has taken time to get more comfortable sharing. And I think that we're getting close to our 3 years of sobriety. And each year we're kind of sharing more. So I still remember like my first 100 days, I didn't even tell people I wasn't drinking. So it's just a matter of like being open and wanting to share, because for me, at least, like it was so much thinking I was alone and the only one going through that. And I think if I heard someone else like that I wasn't the only one, it does help to know that I want to be kind of someone that is available to support anybody who's going through that. So that's why we share,
Yeah, I mean, like for me, like I first put it as like, I'm not drinking for 30 days, like, because I didn't trust myself. I didn't think I was going to get through it. I didn't share until 6 months in, because I didn't believe in myself. And I tried so many times before, and it was like really the point where I really got to stick when I admitted to myself how fucked up I was, that, I'm an addict and, I wanted to change, right? Like, you're not going to change unless you really want to. It's like, oh, why am I doing this? So because this is terrible, right? And then, and like knowing how hard it was for me, if I had someone to talk to, it would have been a lot easier. And like, it's like, especially coming from the fitness world, we think we got our stuff together, and like we own a gym, right? But behind closed doors, it was a disaster. Like, first thing, wake up find a warm beer, just to get out the door and just to feel normal.
Well, we would like fight over a beer. Like I would save one more from the night before and like hide it in the back of the fridge. So at 4 a.m. when I got up to go to the gym, I could have a beer. So I wasn't like,
Shaking.
Yeah. And feeling absolutely horrible. And even that wasn't not even close to enough. So
did people, anyone in your family, parents, anything like that, did anyone battle with like addiction or alcoholism?
In growing up, my parents did not drink much at all. And so I just like, it would be very occasional. I was aware that we had some alcoholism in my family, like with other relatives, but with my immediate family growing up, I didn't really encounter it at all. So it wasn't until, I drank in high school, like just being a bad kid and all that stuff. And then I kind of drank a lot, but once it kind of all got worse in my late 20s. And then when we met each other, it's just, we enabled each other so much from like the day we met. We were literally drinking for 2 years straight without stopping. So
yeah, my dad drank, he'd drink like a 6-pack a night, nothing like that. And then he like went full on Atkins diet, quit that. But my uncle is a big drinker, and he like the dude lived his life like he was gonna die at 40. Like his parents, died young, not from alcohol, but just from cancer. So he was like, screw it. I'm not going to make it till 40. So I'm going to live every day. Like it's a party. And he did. And he ended up passing away. He got in a motorcycle accident and liver problems, like couldn't get through. But I remember one time I was visiting my parents, my stepdad's, it's like, I see a lot of Uncle Alan and you. And I was like, oh shit. Like, I didn't know how to take it. And I'm like, well, okay, I got a problem. Right. And you just kind of like, you brush it off. And you're like, I don't have a problem. I don't. And you just kind of like create this thing you want to see. But it's like we were.
You met me, and then it got so
Yeah.
much worse because we both like drank a lot before we met each other, and then like literally our Bumble date, like, I felt like I met my match because finally one of my dates could keep up with me drinking beers, and then like one beer led to like 12, and then I mean that's a whole nother story about when we met.
That one thing I as I was listening to the full YouTube video you did, I was like, these guys are not, it's not like they're drinking a fifth of bourbon. They're drinking IPAs and craft, like that was like your thing, right? Like craft beer.
Yeah.
I mean, which if you like, my father, alcoholism and drug, and ultimately led to his demise. And my family's very Irish, Cleveland, Ohio, a lot of drinking. Some of my family members are definitely like, what do you call it? Functional alcoholics type scenario, but I mean, fuck, like drinking IPA, like that's just like, that's a ton. And you were also still working out.
Yeah. You know what? Like, I think back to like some of our worst times. And so at our gym, we had an office, but we had like the curtains on the windows and no one in the office, but there were like hundreds of beer cans just like stacked up on one another. And that was like, I wish I had a picture of it, but like, I don't have a lot of pictures because obviously I'm like ashamed. But that's like such a perfect representation of like our secret life. Like literally the office in the gym full of beer cans. And I would drink before I work out, I drink after. Like in the 2019 CrossFit Open, I like did the first open workout, which was the 19-minute AMRAP of 19 wall balls and 19 cal row. And I like it was like 10 beers in and I did that. And, like it's crazy how I was functioning, but I would say for the first couple of years we were functioning, drinking heavily, very unhealthy relationship. But like once it got to the point where it was scary and I realized I was going to die that way, like that's eventually when I had given up. I mean, I definitely gave up. I don't know about you, but
she continued to work out longer than I did. She would go to the gym and I would just go straight to the office and just drink and be like, I don't want to talk to anybody. Tell them I'm not here. Mark's sick or whatever. And I just like would just sit on the couch. And then when I stopped working out, that's when I knew. I was like, oh my God, I don't know who I am. Once you kind of give up and you don't do the one thing that like makes you feel a little normal, that was the worst.
There's part of me, it's like, I kind of wish you guys would have like gone for the Guinness record for the beer mile. I feel like you could have gotten it. I feel like you could have crushed it.
Oh, you gotta tell them about when you met me the first day you had the deadlifts and the beer.
Yeah. So Alex Viata from through Alec. So he did something a while ago where it was deadlift, drink a beer, deadlift, drink a beer. And I actually we finished it was 3-4-3 hero walk,
yeah.
And then afterwards I did it. I don't even know what it was. It was like craft beer, and I was like, this is terrible.
Dallas Blonde.
It was Dallas Blonde. I was like, oh man, this is too light. Like I need my Deep Ellum IPA.
Oh my God.
But yeah.
But you chugged a beer and did like a 500-pound deadlift for 5 reps.
Yeah.
5 beers, 5 reps.
Yeah.
That's wow.
No.
But you're right about the beer mile. To me, I would have been like, oh, only 4 beers. That's
I know, like I see that. Oh, I see it now, and I'm like, man, I would.
Child's play.
Yeah.
Child's play. Yeah. Well, so so did you guys collectively, everyone, I always hear of like, there's a rock bottom and then it's the ascent back out of the hole. Did you guys collectively hit that point together, or was there really no rock bottom? You just collectively, you guys came together? Because it is very incredible. The two of you guys, as partners coming together, dating, and you both have this same addiction. Now you are like compoundingly enabling each other. You're running a gym. This office is like, it's literally the metaphor of skeletons in the closet. Yeah. Like it's this evil thing back there that we're ashamed of and we're doing, but then out on the floor is nothing but health, fitness, and optimism. And, did members know, or were they just oblivious?
So I had some members listen to when we did that interview that the YouTube video is, and I got a lot of messages them saying they had no idea, which I'm shocked.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, they said they didn't know, but it was, it's very consistent flow of alcohol all day, every day. And I can't believe they didn't like at least smell it on me, but maybe like,
yeah, I don't know how they didn't know, because like now being sober, like I can like smell it like immediately, and I know, and like how just like, we must have been just that good at hiding it, because like sometimes we like, I don't know how I drove home, like
Sure.
I really like time traveled, how like
no, there's so much we're ashamed of too, and we'll admit that we would drink and drive, and which is something that is hard to admit to, but like that's how much of every day of our lives it was like that we did, and we hit many rock bottoms. I don't even know what, if you want
I would say like, it's like you think we thought we hit rock bottom, and then we'd fall through that, and then there was like layers of shit, and then we would like fall through that, and you're just like, how fucking far can I go, until like,
our like water would get shut off.
Yeah, that was
our electricity would get shut off, because we would spend all our money. If I would get $13, you'd buy that 6-pack of Mosaic IPA. And like I had to like, we would pawn shit just so we could, if we wouldn't have any money in our bank account to go get a 6-pack, and like the next it would be one 6-pack at a time. So you could only plan for one 6-pack, and then in the midst of drinking those 6, you'd have to get raise that money again or sell more shit. But
yeah, there was like that time where, you think you hit rock bottom, and then like I come home and I like kick the door down and can't fix it. So we like literally had an ottoman in front of our door for like years. Like just
because our front door was broken. We went out the back door, like I don't know.
Yeah.
But we would try to quit by like together, but it would never work. And like we tried that multiple times, and I'm like, I have to do it. Kind of to like separate ourselves. And then like once I got a few days in, it became a competition for me. I'm like, okay, I'm winning, and she had I'll let her tell her story of how she like turned it into almost like a training program.
Well, yeah, so he quit drinking. It was actually April Fool's Day was his first day of sobriety. So April 1st.
Was that on purpose?
No.
I remember I trained this older lady. We used to train at a gym, and after COVID, I went to her house and I would train her there. And amazing. She was actually she's an alcoholic too, and we bonded after the fact of this. But like, I remember one day I just woke up Thursday morning, and I was hungover there, and I'm like, today's the last day I'm drinking. I don't know why. I don't know what it was.
We didn't talk about it. He didn't plan it. This was right after, just 2 weeks into the COVID shutdown. So like, obviously our gym was closed. So we closed on March 18th. So this was April 1st. And you weren't, and like, you didn't say anything about it. It was more so like, I was stuck in I had no hope or plan to stop at that time. And then he just did. So continue.
Yeah, I have no idea like what it was. I remember just like sitting there, I'm like, we'd sit outside after our training session, talk, hang out with her dog. And it was like, just like this thing clicked where I was like, I need to do this now. If I can do it during COVID, I will make it work, or we're going to kill ourselves during this time of COVID. And the craziest thing, the night before that, I shotgunned 4 Mosaic IPAs after like the normal
day.
It's 18 during the day. So I don't know.
I've heard that a lot. I've heard like most people I've ever talked to who were deep into addiction of some kind. It's almost like it runs its course at some point. Like at some point, your body or the chemicals in your brain are no longer just like, I'm over it. Like, and it just switches like that. And like some people I've heard, it was like a life-changing thing. Something happened with their kid, or there's something that external. But I've heard a lot of stories like that from friends, family, people in my ecosystem, where it's just like, just one day I just decided. And
like David Goggins, where he was like, I looked in the mirror, shaved my head, and it was like. It's just weird. I don't know. It's weird, like how the chemicals in people's brain turn them into addicts, and like how that can just like you change over like a split second.
And that was not the case for me, because like he just didn't drink that day, and I was like, that's weird. But I didn't try to stop. I didn't care to stop, and so I kept drinking. And so then our days turned into like, he had this one client in the morning, and then he would buy me my like 24. Well, I did switch to light beer. So I was like, okay, first step is switching to like Coors Light.
There we go. Progress.
I wouldn't say I switched. I did a lot of things. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna track it on MyFitnessPal or like do the wine. But he'd always buy me. Oh no, that was when I was trying to stop.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
that's how you do not stop, is like, oh, I'm gonna switch.
Well,
It
was part of it, but and so for me, like I just kept drinking normally, and I was like, I'm a piece of shit, and I just like looked at myself. I wouldn't even look at myself actually, and I just felt like a disgusting failure. And then, so I still remember. So when I stopped, or the beginning of my end, or beginning of the beginning, it was April 27th. So 27 days, Marc was sober, and I signed up for a half Ironman, and I was like, I'm signed up for a half Ironman. And I was like drinking when I did it. So I'm sitting on the couch drinking beer, signed up for a half Ironman. I was like, this is how I'm getting sober. And so it was 6 months from that day.
Have you ever done anything endurance based, like besides CrossFit, but like really endurance based prior to that?
Yeah. So like my background is endurance sports. So I was a Nordic skier in college, and I ran track and cross country, and I did triathlon as well. So, but I had never done a half Ironman. I'd done up to Olympic distance. So I like had that. So anyway, I signed us both up for it, but then I was terrified of stopping cold turkey, because I know that can kill you, because like withdrawing from alcohol is like one of the most dangerous things to do, cold turkey. And so I was like, at this point, it was just like, I was literally like, I need to go to rehab, but like I couldn't afford it. You can't get in. And that's a whole nother topic. Like, you need help. I just needed help. And I felt so trapped because I didn't know how to help, couldn't afford the help. And even if I could, they couldn't get me in for like months. And anyway, so I like looked up online, and I basically had to wean myself off alcohol. And so based on what I was currently drinking, I could safely wean myself off in 10 days. And so I literally wrote down like a plan. So I started at 18 Coors Lights in one day. So that was like my starting point.
You did like linear periodization on weaning yourself off alcohol.
Yep. And then each day I did 2 beers less. So 18, then 16, 14. And it all literally stuck to it exactly. And the crazy thing is, like, after that first day of 18 beers spaced out, I was like, I feel sober. Like I felt 100% so, because I was so addicted.
Yeah.
And then eventually that's when Marc, like the routine was like, we'd get up, he'd go train his client, he'd get me my 24 pack of Coors Light, and I would just space them out, read Harry Potter all day. And that was like my day. But I still remember that last beer. That was at on May 17th at 9:07 p.m. My last beer in bed. And I'm like, it's my last beer. And then like literally that was only one. I think I can't remember. I must have had 2 beers that day, like one in the morning, one at night. And then the next day, like I felt amazing. And literally like now I'm terrified of alcohol. Like
I'm curious on that. So real quick, go ahead, Marc.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. Same thing. So I quit cold turkey, and she weaned herself off. I could not do it that way, because as an addict, give me 18, I'm gonna go until I pass out. Like, what is 2 beers? It's like, I don't know. So I don't know how she did that.
I did like 6 sets of 3. I was like, and I wrote it down like that in my planner. I'm okay, 6 by 3 equals 18 beers. All right. And then the times of the day and everything.
It's such an incredible story. Whenever people are super vulnerable and telling stuff like that, I can't hold a candle to your situation. I remember one time I partied a lot when I owned my gym, and it was kind of silly, irresponsible stuff. I had gone out on a Sunday. I blacked out. I fell down some stairs. I don't even know. I just woke up 4:30 in the morning. My alarm goes off, and I'm out the door to go coach. I never even look in the mirror. I have no idea, like nothing. I have no idea I fell down the steps, nothing. I just show up at the gym. And my first client to walk in the door screams. Like, my face looked like I got the shit kicked out of me, and I had no clue. And I'm like, oh my God. And like, she told me, and I ran in the bathroom and I tried cleaning up. It's like, there's nothing, you're not hiding that. And then, so I was like, oh man, I must have, I made some BS up. And I remember, I swear to God, I'm announcing the workout on the board. And I said something like 12 of this and 24-ounce box jump. I said ounce, like, I don't know the way it just came out. And I remember being like, motherfucker, like, again, there are these moments, and I want to go to the gym part real quick, because I know there are going to be some gym owners or coaches that they've dealt with some type of behavior, whether it's an addiction or something that is not conducive to either running the business, being a great employee, or for their clients whatsoever. What happened with the business? Like, how did things, like, talk to everyone, like, how does that work? How do you run a gym while this is happening? Like, talk about like what happened with that.
It's a great question. We did listen to your podcast then, and we just realized how shitty we were and how terrible business owners we were. And like, depending on where we were in our alcoholism, I guess, like at that point, we just didn't give a shit. And the reason the gym like stayed open was because it's not like we were making money. Like we were barely scraping by, and we had the clients we had. But I do think that I was still being a good coach. I hope. I don't know. I feel like I can't even say that.
What was the name of the gym, by the way?
Huh?
What was the name of the?
Should we even say?
You don't have to if you don't want to.
CrossFit Cabra. We don't own it anymore. It's still there. But CrossFit Cabra, it was our gym. And what was I gonna say? Like, I lost my train of thought. You chime in?
When did the transition happen? So when did it no longer become your gym?
When we moved out here to work for our High Rocks HQ, that was yeah. I mean, and we actually we still owned it technically when we were here.
Well, I still pay the affiliate fee,
Yeah.
so maybe I'm still an owner. I don't know.
And we still wrote the programming too.
So people are listening to this, they're like, well, how did you stay in, like, how, like, obviously you weren't making money. There's a lot of CrossFit gyms in which nobody's drinking and they're not making any fucking money. Okay.
So I'll tell you this, it's like, we wanted to drink so badly, we would do what we had to do to get it right. I was like, so it's just like, we just break even. Fuck it, we don't need water. We've lived without water, so it's like just a place to sleep and a place to break even to get our beer, and we'll be fine.
We really cared for our members, and we really cared for our community. And I do feel like we had good relationships with people, and I think that they stuck around. You have to ask them why they kept coming, because like, honestly, I don't know. It barely hung on when we were there. We weren't doing anything to help the business, and it just kind of maintained. I will say, like, post-COVID, things for us were harder. But yeah, I don't know. Somehow we managed to scrape by, and it like paid the bills there. But
you survived keeping your gym. This is the thing I tell people. Like, everyone's like, oh my God, if this thing happens, I'm going to go out of business. I'm like, the resiliency of a small business without, like, you were suffering from alcoholism and addiction during it, and then COVID, and then you guys got out of the hole during COVID on the addiction side, which, by the way, which is crazy, because that's when most people got addicted, because they were at home drinking all the time, right? I mean, it survived alcoholism and COVID. It's a pretty resilient fucking business. I don't know who's running it now, who the owner is now, but if that person fails and that gym goes under by any means, it's going to be like, how did you ruin the most resilient business out of here? So let's transfer over to all that. And again, anyone listening, please go watch. It's linked in the show notes there. Go and watch the full video and hear like the actual deep details of all this. It was just it's so incredible. Like your guys' story, so rocky. I mean, it's as American fucking as it gets. Like, started from the bottom. Now it'll get you going. Now enter High Rocks. Where does that intersection happen?
So one of our members, so I had been sober about a year. We had done we did 2 half Ironmans. And I'm like, oh, I'm into this now. But then one of our members, who's actually an OCR guy, was like, oh, you got to try this. And I looked at it, and like, for me, having the endurance background, and then like, also I love CrossFit, and I love a lot of
2021.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. 2021. And I saw the movements were all like not super high skilled. Nothing's holding me back. I was like, ooh, a lot of running, and then some of just movements that I'm not gonna be held back with, like gymnastics or handstand walking or whatever. Like, this is sweet. And so I signed up and did my first one, and it was in Austin in May of 2021. And then like shortly before the race, we got an email saying like, tell us your story. And I was like, so maybe this was like one of the first times I was kind of like sharing a little bit. And so it was my 1-year sobriety was right around that race. And so my story was, I'm celebrating my 1-year sobriety by doing High Rocks. And that got me in touch with Eric Botsford, who was my connection at the time. And he was like, dude, like, cool, let's do an interview with you at the first event. And so that's kind of how I started meeting some of the staff. And then I ended up going to the Nationals, which is a couple months later in Chicago. And so again, like building relationship just kind of with the staff of High Rocks, and I loved it. Marc was still my water boy because he was afraid to do endurance. Or no, why didn't you do it?
I don't know. I was scared.
Too much hit his ego. It was his ego.
It was, yeah,
I
probably my
think
ego.
it is hard. Again, Marc's a bigger, stronger athlete, power athlete. We look at endurance stuff, and I think we've always forever, like you think of it, like I go back to the original Greg Glassman, articles I'd read in 05, 06. It's like that was LSD, long so distance. And then you think of like an anemic person, not a fit. But this entire like hybrid athlete concept, like people like, in the past year with this whole Chicago Marathon experiment and the tempo training, it's just like, oh my God, being strong is, mile 20 of a marathon and going negative splits. Like that's strong too. It's not just, the productive application of force against a barbell.
Right.
So anyway, I had basically been in touch with Eric, and they knew who I was. They knew I loved High Rocks. And he sent me an email in like September of 2021. He was like, hey, do you know anyone in Dallas that would be interested in working for High Rocks? And I was like, me. And I was like, you have to hire me. And like, I'm perfect for this. This is
I love the fucking confidence. Yeah, I do. It's me. It's fucking me.
Yes. And that's really how it was. Like, he never actually was like, you're hired. It was like assumed. And I was like, and anyway, so the position initially started with me being the regional kind of manager in Dallas. And my job was to spread the word of High Rocks, get the name more known in gyms. So I'd go to kind of drop into all different kinds of gyms. We'd hold our like intro workout, the PFT, which is like a High Rocks benchmark, stands for physical fitness test. But anyway, so I would go in different gyms, host the workout. Marc would help me. So he was always there as my kind of like assistant. And we really built, I feel like we played a pretty big role in building that Dallas market, because every single weekend we're getting out in gyms and meeting people. And we love like just building relationships, meeting people, and we genuinely
B2B sales. So let's walk through that for a second. A lot of the gym owners I work with, I'm always, trying to get them to, from an organic marketing standpoint. I'm like, hey, you don't have a huge budget for digital and paid ads and shit. You got to get out, go to that brewery, go to that coffee shop, go to the local business, the apartment complex, and set up some fucking relationships. So would you walk me through kind of like, how did you approach this? Was it a little like, Google gyms, write them all down, and just drive and introduce you? Like, how did you actually go door to door B2B?
Well, I started with who I knew. So I obviously knew local gyms around me, just because meeting them at CrossFit competitions, and you generally know kind of who's in your neighborhood. Started there, and then kind of went with one connection led to another. And so that's kind of how I would build as like a web, like get one gym, then introduce you to 5 more. And then we just kept going that way.
What would the pitch be? Because I'm just picturing you walking in to a gym, bay doors open, someone and then like, what's your opening move?
Well, let's say this pitch was different then than it is now, because then no one knew what High Rocks was. So it was a challenge because, well, still no one knows, but like, especially then, and my goal then was a little different than what our goal is now. So my goal then was to get in their gym, run a workout for them on a Saturday. So, and that was the PFT. So I guess first a lot of times they knew me already, so that helped. And I was just like, hey, have you heard of High Rocks? And I explain High Rocks, it's a endurance fitness race, and it's coming to Dallas. Dallas is one of the 4 regions, and we're doing, I explain the PFT, and it's like, I describe it as a fun community-free event just to introduce their members to High Rocks and get an opportunity to kind of tell them about it. And if they were up for it, like a lot of people would be like, why would I want you to come run a workout at my gym? Like they would see it as competition. And so like we got some no's, but the more we did it, the more people would see on like social media what it was all about. So more people were like, okay, cool. And then, but at this time, a lot of people hadn't been to an event. So like the pitch is much different then than it was now. And Marc will say, there's a lot different now than it was. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, like now it's definitely a lot different, because this thing has legs, right? And people know what it is, and like there's actually a lot of value in what it can bring into gyms, especially with like how amazing the event is. So you can take your gym and really rally up your community and go to this event, come back and represent yourself, right, at these races. And it's not you're changing yourself to all high rocks so you can be whatever your gym is, and this is like the thing you're training for. And that value is huge, because like people think like it's a competition thing, like, oh, we're coming in and like we're going to change you to high rocks. Like, no, like we want to share the wealth of this thing, and it's like there's so much wealth out here, and it's never going to run dry, right? Like, you know, it's like how many millions of people run and do marathons. Like, people aren't like, oh man, like they're running, we're not going to run.
Sure.
So that's kind of like the power it has now. And it's just such an amazing event and community and involved with High Rocks.
And then once we had like the success in Dallas, and they saw like how many people we got out, and we're doing these events every weekend, they sent us to Boston, which ended up, that's another story, but they sent us to Boston. They're like, hey, go fix Boston now. And then they go, hey, LA ticket sales suck. Better go out there 3 weeks before the event and get people to sign up. And so as we went, it was so much learning, and a lot, like, it's so easy for us because we believed in it so much.
Yeah.
And we believed in it, and just being able to talk to other gym owners and really like, and just, it's just us talking about something we loved.
Sure.
And they can oftentimes be like, we can sense your energy, like, and because we're so passionate about it. And I mean, it's just, it comes so easily. Just never ever will feel like I'm selling anything, because I'm just only being honest and telling people like that they got to come out and check it out. So
you kind of, you know, you kicked in a door and got yourself a job with High Rocks, right? You kind of like used your assertiveness and your alpha female to get a job. How were they in that role with the company? How were they judging your performance? Was it based on, hey, we sent you to LA for 3 to 4 weeks prior to a race, ticket sales were X, then, you know, if ticket sales are X, you did well. If they were Y, you didn't do well. Like, how were they judging your performance out there as like the street guerrilla marketing team?
Well, at the time, at the very beginning, it was more so like how many of these PFTs, the workouts, like how many gyms you're getting into. And so they were seeing that I was sending them up every single weekend. And then the ticket sales were reflected, but there wasn't really a good way of seeing, oh, because Lauren did this, ticket sales are this.
Sure.
So at the time, that's kind of how it was. And I think it was a lot of us kind of like reporting back and like sharing, and then they could just see that an impact was being made, but it wasn't like directly.
They can't directly correlate the ROI of
Yeah.
you going door to door. Now with these PFTs, these are sample workouts. They're essentially, this is indicative of what like a High Rocks race would feel like, look like. Here's some of the movements we're doing. What if a gym didn't have the equipment? Like, would you have to modify this, or would you bring the equipment? How would you do it? How would that work?
So the workout, the only equipment you need is rowers and wall balls. And so most gyms have rowers, but we also had 3 that we would bring, and then wall balls. But we can obviously, like, as the more we do it, the more we modify it too as needed. Because we don't like instead of doing the row, you could run, or if they have bikes, we would bike or ski. And we really learned how to modify for any space. And it's just remember not to take it too seriously. Like, the whole point was to create that fun community event. So if you modify the workout or whatever, like, I wouldn't tell someone, oh, this is what a High Rocks race is like. I'd be like, this is an intro with some movements that we do. And it's really my chance to talk to you when you're listening, like address the group so they can kind of hear about it. And that's really, really all it was. And then, yeah, so.
It's interesting. Like so with everything I've been doing with the tempo training and training for this, I've been, you know, there's the laws of specificity, right? And if you're doing a monostructural event like a marathon, 99% of the coaches out there are going to want you to train with specificity and running to do the event, which is just running. Something like High Rocks, which essentially has 9 elements to it, you know, running plus 8 functional fitness elements to it. There are so many other things you can do that have carryover to your capacity to do those. You don't just have to ski, you know, lunge with a sandbag, heavy sled pull and push. Like, you're not restricted to this there. There is plenty of other movements that any gym has, whether it's a health club or a micro gym or a franchise, in which they could do this. Brandon Cullen and I were having whiskey and cigars the other night. We were talking shop, and I was like, man, you've got a good amount of the equipment in your gyms. And again, they're a franchise, so there's certain things they can and cannot do, and they've got to keep things structured. But I was like a metabolic or an F45 or whatever, all of these, the current day, a Barry's boot camp, they all have enough tools to where it wouldn't be specificity for the exact event, but they would certainly be able to create a phenomenal capacity for someone to do well with each of their independently unique programs.
Well, I had never pushed a sled before my first event. And so I always recommend, I mean, if people can get on a sled, that's great, but I definitely don't think it's required. And at our gym, we only had one. So you can be creative with using it or not using it, but also like I've created programs that are dumbbell only. So I think that you can train for Hyrox with only dumbbells too.
Oh yeah.
So go ahead. I can tell you want to say something.
Oh no, like I mean, every one of these successful gyms, even the global gyms, have these cool classes. Like Lifetime has their GTX Alpha class. Like that is perfect. And, you know, and I'm really working hard to get in to the Lifetimes and saying like, hey, let's just like spin it a little bit. Like you don't have to change anything. Just tell them this is preparing you for the thing that you're already doing. Yeah. Now you can go celebrate it at Hyrox, right? Whatever it is. Barry's boot camp. Those people come and will smoke a lot of the CrossFit athletes because they're running and going to the floor, going to the floor. And it happened at our gym. So like even before we got into Hyrox, we started doing these hybrid classes. You know, and then we found Hyrox and like we did like a really long workout on a Friday, and these Camp Gladiator people came in, they just work outside, you know, running, dumbbells, whatever. They smoked every one of our CrossFit members. You know, and like
they're used to working out for 45 minutes.
They get that. That's the entire workout is 45 minutes, where a CrossFit gym works in a time modality of 9 to 15 minutes due to the business nature of needing to get the next class in, and you got to get your strength and your skill and all the other silly shit in. That's so from a growth perspective of Hyrox affiliates. So back then, what were the biggest objectives? You're in a sales role. And again, like you sound like as gym owners, right? Most gym owners are able to sell their gym service, their membership, because they're very passionate about what they do. They might not even be great at sales, but that passion carries through. What objections to Hyrox did you hear in the beginning when you were first going around, like in that Dallas market? And then have they changed it all now here in 2023, where Hyrox is a bigger name, right? There's bigger players doing it, and it's definitely more popular. It's not as well known as it's going to be, but have the objections from different gym owners to be an affiliate or get their members excited about it, have they changed at all, or are they the same?
Yes, and they have changed, but we've also adapted the affiliate program because we ultimately have like the freedom to add to it. And I actively make sure I'm talking with our affiliate owners to like see get their feedback, what they would like to see and how we can add value for them. But I would say then the biggest issue was brand recognition. People were like, so what do I get? And it's like, well, you get to call yourself a Hyrox gym. They're like, well, no one knows what that is. So why is that helping me? So that would be one kind of, so I would hear that a lot, or if it was somewhere where there wasn't an event close by. So right now our locations are, well, in Texas now we have Dallas and Houston, but there's LA, New York City, Chicago, and what am I forgetting? Miami's the new one, South Florida. So if you're not in a location, people are like, well, my members like aren't going to want to
Anaheim. Right?
Sorry?
Anaheim.
Yes, Anaheim's the next one. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, in California.
So so essentially, like you go to Cleveland, Ohio, they're like, A, the brand recognition is not high enough. B, I got to sell my members on this idea and then get them to travel to one of these, 6 cities.
Right. Exactly.
And that actually has just happened. We were at the Arnold. People were like, we were talking to people there, and they're like, "Oh, I wish you're closer." But you'd be amazed at how many people do travel to these things because they're all in destination location.
Oh yeah, I just flew to fucking Austin to go run for fucking 90 minutes. Like it's just, people do that. Like it's fitness people will find an excuse to go do a fitness thing if they've been training for it. And you know what I find it's even different. So I watch and I'm like, I was talking to Marc about this, but actually I just got a draft on a really good reel from when me and Marc were talking about this. I was talking about, I love the sled, because of it's just constant time under tension, just go, 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 go. But there was really nothing I could do with the upper body. I'd put handles on it, I'd put straps, I'd row it, but then I'd have to walk it back out and then row it again, or I'd press it like a horizontal press, but then I got to walk into it. It was like there was always a downtime. And then I don't know why I didn't think of it. I watched, when I found Hyrox, I'm like, oh, rope pool. That's constant time under tension. That is that meets exactly what I'm into. So I went and got 2 fucking 50-foot ropes and I attach them to each side, and members will come over and they'll be like, what in the fuck are you doing? I'm doing like the open gym thing over there. And they look at it and they're like, oh, that looks really cool. That looks hard. Like that, it still satisfies the strength element for them. But the fact that no one else is like, it's not a thing. It's kind of underground in some of these cities where it's not overly popular. So to say you're training for something that most people haven't heard of, I actually have been talking with a lot of people, and I think that's something that it's almost appealing to them, kind of like CrossFit. When I was training for CrossFit in a Globo gym in 2007, and people like, why are you jumping on the bench, like the bench for the bench press? I'm like, because we don't have plyo boxes. And, the pull-up bar that's in the cable crossover machine, it's got like the angled pull-up bar on it that every cable crossover machine, like I'm doing my kipping pull-ups there. Like I took pride in, like, I'm doing this thing that no one else knows of. And, CrossFit got more popular. And I think that was one of the things that I was like, everyone does it now. But I found people like talk about this, like, so how many people do this? So it's a smaller athlete pool. So people, obviously, if they're mediocre, like I could do really well because it's not like everyone's doing it yet. Have you found a fitness methodology that jumps to it more than others? Are the CrossFitters more receptive than maybe like the franchise Orange Theories and F45s? Is there a certain fitness methodology that is jumping into it faster?
I think a lot of it is what fitness methodology will be more receptive to it, or because like I think someone at Orange Theory might be more prepared, but like the Orange Theory doesn't want to hear it. They don't want anything to do with High Rocks because they see it as, they don't understand yet how it can help them. But I would say for sure, like the Spartan OCR community is what comes to mind first. And with CrossFitters, obviously they're all going to say it's too much running. And that's just something that too bad for them, I guess. But
yeah, definitely the endurance side, they can come in confident and like be like, I can run that no problem. They'll struggle with the stations, the sled, and the wall balls particularly, and they'll come back. But the people that are in these Globo gyms, you'll see a lot of like exports, crunch, like just randomly coming, because I think for them, they're like, sweet, like there's this thing I can do. Like I work my ass off in the gym every day, like throughout the week, for what? To go like hang out by the pool? Like it's not worth it. And like and that's like what this like is so beautiful about High Rocks. It's like people are doing this. Like people do the lunges, they run on the treadmill. Like it's like people were told not to run on the treadmill because you're going to lose your gains, right? Now it's like get on the fucking treadmill, get off, go do some lunges, get back on, and now you can go like test yourself like on a beautiful stage of High Rocks.
I still feel like there's so many people that need to know about it that don't know. And even like when we were doing more in those 70.3s, like people would ask us like, what do you do? Because like people can tell like we don't just run.
Yeah, they're like, well, like, what the hell do you do? Like, it's like you did,
and like I know that I really feel like the endurance sport community will love this kind of thing, because a lot of runners, it's not super, a lot of them aren't lifting, they're not doing strength training, and this is a way to get your strength training in, but also like tons of running. And then we just worked with the triathlete group here in Chicago, a 10-week program with a group that wanted to train for High Rocks, and they had no experience. Most of them didn't have weightlifting experience. So it was pretty cool working with a community like that, because they already had that mindset and that motivation and drive. And they like to try something new. I think somebody who does triathlon is a different kind of person as well, because they're fearless in a way, because they're willing to like get an open water swim and all that stuff.
They really are. And like that's like one thing I link with like my sobriety is like once I like got over that and I was just vulnerable and I said, you know what, I'm an alcoholic, like I'm not afraid to do anything. And it's like once I think people have this ego and they're afraid to do a thing, and the triathletes do it, right? You see people like huge balls out there like on these rent-a-bikes, right? Like I'm like, you guys are amazing, you inspire me so much. And then they're on to the next one. They're like, I did this, what's next? And like it's just, that is the coolest freaking thing. And then there's people that like have these egos and they just like spend their time in a gym working out for what?
Because they don't want to get last, or they're afraid that like they're gonna get beat by someone who doesn't look like they should beat them.
Sure. It's, being hanging around the endurance community more. It's like, I find that there's most runners are middle to upper class. A lot of enduro athletes are middle to upper class. Like they have money, especially once you get in triathlons and Ironmans. Like those bikes are expensive. The races, kind of like high rocks, like you're not going to find a great triathlon in Cleveland, Ohio. You're going to travel to like one of the more popular ones. You got to swim. You got, like, it takes time. So you have to be in a financial position to be able to dedicate the time to those three modalities for a triathlon. And as I spend more time in the endurance community, I'm just kind of getting a feel for like what people's appetite are for other things. And I see most of the endurance community, I'd probably say like maybe 20% or 30% is kind of bought into some kind of strength training. And that generally pushes them into one of these multiple different functional fitness brands, whether it's CrossFit F45, Orange Theory, Metabolic, whatever. And now they've got some exposure to it. And very similar to, what I talked about in that article the other day, like what is there for any of those brands? What is there for your members to do outside of the gym to celebrate the kind of fitness you've created for them? There's literally nothing. There is not one thing for anyone in a CrossFit, Metabolic, F45, Orange Theory, Berries to do outside of the four walls of the gym that celebrates. You can do something adjacent. You can rock climb or get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or run a marathon, but find me the thing they can do. And don't tell me like, oh, well, there's CrossFit competitions every week. I'm like, no, not that. I'm talking mass participation, accessible event. Enter High Rocks. And it's all, that's part of my huge thesis with you guys. I believe you can be one of the astounding retention elements inside of a gym. If gyms are doing good now with retention, but let's say they're at 92%, but our goal is to get them at 97%. That 5% delta is so difficult to climb up to at times, especially when the members have no reason to stick around. Like fitness is fickle. Unless you make your money on your fitness, which none of them do, it's a hobby, and they're going to be cyclical and fickle with their hobby. To do one thing for a while, then try another gym. My friends go here, but now you put an event to it where it's like, oh man, I signed up for that thing 9 months from now. You know what I feel confident in? That member's not fucking canceling for 9 months at least. I would every start of every year, like, all right, it's January. Man, I'm trying to get these new people that joined in January to stick around for a year. I'm going to try to get us all excited about traveling to Chicago 12 months from now or 10 months from now to do the Chicago High Rocks and really build that up. And if I get enough people to put that on their calendar and pay for the entry and get excited about a trip, they will fucking stay. It'd be very unlikely for someone to cancel mid if they saw the ability for them to prepare for this event at the gym that they're at.
Yeah, and they're gonna tell their friends, and the next one you do, you're gonna have like twice as many people, and there's so many things you can do with that, right? Hey, we're a High Rocks affiliate, we're gonna go do this thing, and then hey, there's a 12-week training program we're gonna do, which you can charge extra for. There's like so many things, and like what you said that like about these gyms not having a thing to do. Some of these like really cool gyms. There's one in New York that does their own
Cone House.
Yeah, they do turf wars.
Yeah, turf wars.
It's amazing, amazing. But how much money does that cost them? They got to rent out the place. So like this is something that people can go do and not have to pay a dime other than the entry fee, And it's like
everyone argues the CrossFit Open. Like, what about the CrossFit? I'm like, it's 3 workouts, it's 3 weeks, and it's privately held inside your gym. That's not like it from a retention standpoint that it might work for 3 weeks. I'm talking about something that could work seasonally, much longer as far as that goes. For a High Rocks affiliate, someone signs up as a High Rocks affiliate. How does that work? So I don't want to use Metabolic as an example, but let's use let's say you got a CrossFit affiliate and they're like, well, our primary fitness methodology is CrossFit. So do I have to create a High Rocks class, or like, what does an affiliate do? Like, what changes for them? What are you seeing most the High Rocks affiliates do once they become affiliated?
Well, I always tell them, ultimately, like it's up to them how they want to use their affiliation, but I always give them kind of ideas. And I can always use our gym as an example because we own a CrossFit affiliate, but then we added so many CrossFit gyms are already having their sweat class or the class that is more geared towards less technical, like their boot camp type thing.
Like a lower barrier to entry type scenario.
Yep. And so I would the way I did it at my gym is I wrote the programming. So like CrossFit, and then it would be alongside a hybrid workout. So our members could choose one or the other. So they complemented each other when it comes to like time. and movements. And that way people go back and forth, but they had that option. So I tell a CrossFit affiliate or CrossFit gym, like, hey, like if you guys want to add a high rocks class, like that's what I honestly recommend if you're wanting to like bring in a different type of clientele. Because you can market yourself as having that high rocks class. It now has a name. But and we do provide affiliate programming. So Mark and I, we do write the programming. And so we have some programs they can follow, but I always tell them like, you can use that as inspiration. You can follow it to a T, like it's completely up to you, but getting in another kind of class on your schedule is definitely out the first step, I would say. And so adding something different, and other gyms have sold like 12-week packages before an event that they all do together. So just there's all kinds of ways you can use the affiliation. And part of my goal is to kind of work with them and provide support and ideas, you know. We're at the point now where I'm still kind of working with people individually and giving them ideas as much as they need. But not only that, but like they're also like on hierarchs.com, and we talk about the academy. So Mark and I run the Hierarchs Academy, which is our certification course. So we encourage everyone to come to that as well. So all kinds of stuff you can do with it. It really depends on what the type of gym is. And that's kind of how I can make suggestions there.
Sure.
Yeah, it's very important for the coach and the owner to announce like, hey, we're doing this is the High Rocks class, as opposed to just like running a class with like High Rocks implemented like movements in it, because then it gets confusing to them. They're like, oh, is this CrossFit? Is this what is this that where we do this weird workout that had very broad jumps instead of regular burpees? So you really need to educate them like today is High Rocks class, and then what is High Rocks, and educate them on what they're doing so that they don't get confused. But there's like there's so many cool things gyms do. Like there's a gym here in Chicago that they created a High Rocks in reverse at their gym competition.
So you can run like you can use the High Rocks name and run your own kind of competition. And so that's what these guys have done.
That's a way for them to make money back. Everybody says like, how do I make money back? Or like, what, like, how can I use this name? Like you can do whatever you want. You can run, you know, High Rocks, no running. He did that too. And he created this cool thing. It's Strong as Oak, but he does like a weekly or a monthly thing where like you collect points. So like it's a competition that where he did like mix up these competitions, and there's like an overall winner. But it's just a cool way to like to train.
It requires the gym owner to have some creativity, and they have to kind of be bought in and as well, because if they are just a High Rocks affiliate and they don't kind of ask for my support or they don't do anything, like I mean, who knows whether it's gonna like make a difference.
It's just like, you know, owning a gym, it's not like build it and it will come. Like you have to get out there and say like, hey, we got this cool thing, High Rocks, and like come train here. And it's not like you don't want to be a spitting image of the other gym. Like that's what people are afraid of. Like make it cool to you. Like, you know, if you are like a very, you know, barbell strength heavy gym, like do something crazy and do like a very endurance one. Do like a High Rocks light, like do something completely different. Like they're not gonna.
So a piece of advice for anyone listening to this who's maybe been like considering it, and I'd be curious your guys' opinion on this, because you guys are obviously doing this on the reg. Recently at a gym out in Vegas, they do think of like a Barry's boot camp. Think of it's treadmills and then off the floor dumbbell type stuff. And they've been really trying to tap into the endurance community. But going back to what I stated earlier, unfortunately, in a 60-minute typical thing, the workout doesn't last the full 60 minutes. It's probably, you know, at most gyms, people are working out for 20-ish minutes, 25-ish minutes or less. And if you're a CrossFit affiliate, there is, I promise you, an overwhelming majority of your members really don't see the value in a 6-minute WOD. Like that's like for an hour for them to be there. Most people can't even generate enough horsepower to where 6 minutes is even practical for them. It's actually poor programming to give Sally, who can't generate 200 watts on a rower, a fucking 6-minute WOD. It's just actually from an EST, energy systems training perspective, it's fucking dumb. Now, if you are constantly running a 60-minute class in which the workout is maybe 15, 20, 25 minutes, I promise you, on the days that you can, or you pepper it in there, do it on the weekends when you have nothing to lose. Like you put it on there after your last class on Saturday and do one on Sunday and put an endurance class. Say it is going to be 90 minutes long, right? Long one. The workout will be 45 to 60 minutes in and of itself. And talk about the benefits of it. This is our endurance one. We'll be going, you know, the gyms have the heart rate monitors. You can get, you know, you can use Maffetone. I literally just had, Jen Charlesworth, she owns CrossFit Tabor up in Michigan. And she literally created an endurance class where they ran math and everyone had a heart rate monitor and they had the zones for them to hit throughout the workout. And the endurance class did very, very well. I think if whatever your membership base is, I promise you, you drop an endurance longer workout in there. Not only could you then start getting some of the endurance community, the run clubs, to buy some punch cards, some 8 times a month member to come and try those things, and then build in, this concurrent class. It's endurance, run, row, bike, ski erg, whatever, some resistance training. And it can look different. Doesn't always have to be the 8 high rocks movements, but it's very inclusive. It's not snatching and fucking bar muscle ups. Like, you're missing the point if you go that route. It's meant to look very accessible. And then they can then see, oh my God, I could go to one of these high rocks things, or DECA, or again, there's 2 fish in the pond. You're the biggest fish by far. I guarantee this. There will be 5 other versions of fitness racing and brands that create fitness races in the next 10 years. I'm so confident on this. So again, but I think they're all going to be in the endurance realm. I think they're all going to look and feel different, but I do believe they're going to be in the endurance realm because everyone's going after mass participation because that's what makes money. Okay. Yep. You can't do something isolated and niched. So guys, you're listening to this. I'm telling you, I experiment with a 90-minute endurance class. And you're like, what the fuck? I promise you, if you've always only offered 60 minutes in which the workout is sub 60, it's probably 15 to 25. I promise you there are members that would love to have a long duration. The gym here is called Fuel Boot Camp. One of my GMs coaches there after I closed down the gym. And every Saturday they do a 90-minute, it's called the Breakfast Club. They have 2 classes, 90 minutes each. It's sold out weeks in advance. Like 30 some people cap. They do a good job, high volume gym. But it's the most popular gym because most people would rather work out longer at a moderate intensity than 9 minutes fucking to their eyes bleed.
They would. And I don't understand why, like, a lot of gym owners don't see that yet. And because people want to work and they want to sweat. And we actually had at our gym, our Friday afternoons, we literally had people not show up. I'm like, this sucks. And Mark's like, well, let's just start something new. Let's do a hybrid endurance class and make it free.
This was before even high rocks.
High rocks. So that's Mark's idea. Let's just do like a super long endurance class, and we'll do crazy workouts because that's kind of how we like to work out. So
for me, it's like it was like a mental thing. I was like, I'm doing these long workouts, like I'm tapping into my mind, right? I'm like reshaping my mind from all the alcohol, and it took me a long time to kind of get back to normal, but just spending that time and that's what I think the beauty is in it, not the how many calories you burn, but what you go through in these 90 minutes. Everybody's gonna learn something, and that's
a different kind of strength.
Yeah, it really is. And I think you found that funny, through running, right? You think these guys are, oh man, a bunch of twinks. They are strength athletes are, I don't think they're they're different type of tough. They're tough for turned on. These people I'm gonna sit in the fire and just burn. How long can I sit there?
But that's the thing is, it's, I don't think if you're just running, I think that's strong. It's definitely strong to run. Runners that just run on a structural run, lifters that just lift and power lift and body, whatever, that's strong too. But I'm telling you, I think the biggest opportunity is the intra-session concurrent, which I'll go to Murph. The reason everybody gets excited about Murph, and it is truly everyone gets excited about it. Unfortunately, it's not because of Michael Murphy. No offense. Nobody gives a fuck. I truly don't believe anyone gives a fuck. They wear their fucking, flak jacket, Tom Clancy Rainbow Six fucking vest, 25-pound plated vest. They get all excited. They show to the gym. And I mean, I've got gyms they're doing Murph training cycles. Wait, you're preparing for this? I thought this was about the guy. It's not about the guy anymore. It's about your fucking Sufferfest workout. But why is Murph such a hard workout? Is it because it's pull-ups? No. Fucking CrossFit gyms are doing pull-ups 2-3 times a week. Is it because of air squats? No. Fucking 2/3 of every leg movement in a CrossFit gym is a squat, an interior-based squat typically, right? Is it the push-ups? It's the time domain. It's the fucking time domain and the fact that never in a group class in a CrossFit gym would you ever be able to run 2 miles. You don't have the time. You can't compact that. So it's because it's a 45 plus minute workout for the average person. And that is oh man, Murph, it's going to be so hard. It's not the reps. It's not the fucking movements. It's the time domain. So I promise you think people like Murph, imagine if you had some kind of intra-session concurrent workout, endurance based, exactly what High Rocks is. I think it'd do very fucking well.
We did a hybrid Murph, which I think is far better, actually.
What was
it? Was, okay, now I'm trying to put me on the spot. Instead of pull-ups, we did kettlebell swings. We did push-ups and wall balls. Did we do push-ups?
No.
What was it?
Did we do push-ups?
I can't remember, but we ended up making it so a partition anyway kind of thing. It was way
But
cooler.
anyway, the people came back and they didn't have a fucking tear in their hand and they were like ready to go. They weren't like, oh man, like I did Murph 2 weeks ago and I fucking
got wrapped up.
Yeah.
Fucking pissing Coca-Cola over here.
Yeah.
I mean, I started finding workouts like on Instagram, you know, like with the 2 miles of running. I'm like, ooh, this looks fun. And other people think that too. It's not just me.
So this is the way she is. She's a volume junkie. She's an addict, right? So like she would be like CrossFit workout. She's like, ooh, like this is before High Rocks. I'm gonna add this and I'm gonna add this. And that like people are doing that now. Like there's a lot of like High Rocksers that are taking CrossFit workouts and adding the running in between. And they're like,
oh yeah.
Amazing. And it's like it's a better workout, right? Like
and it is like that's me now. Like my average workout right now is like 2 hours and 10 minutes. Like that's my average go time of run 9 miles, come in 45-minute workout, back out for 6 miles, back in for a 30-minute workout, 3 miles. Nice. And it's so I'm the fittest version I've ever been because of that. Like running in CrossFit was 400, 800 meters at a time per clip. And it was the recovery. You shake your arms out, you're not fucking moving. And then when you actually run long distances, it forces you to think about your running technique because running is the most complex body weight movement we have. It's not handstand push-ups. It's not handstand walking. It's not muscle ups. It's actually running. And the reason why is because it's already been wired in our brains. You have to unwire that. You don't have to unwire a muscle up because you haven't been doing them since you were 3. Right. But like running to actually get, if you run with shit form and you go run a 5K, you go run a 10K, your shit will hurt. And it's like running's bad for your knees. No, running like shit's bad for your knees.
Did you have your call with Richard Diaz yet?
I did. I had the podcast. It drops on the 31st.
He goes deep. It's amazing to see like how like something so simple, right? It's running. You just fucking on it, but how much goes into it, and that's like right there too, like something you could take into your whatever. Like if you become an affiliate, how much you can dive into running because everybody just throws it to the side like, oh man, just pick one foot up in front of the other and you're good to go. Man, you can have run classes. You can go like to run groups. You can invite them into your thing. And, it's like, there's so much you could do with such a simple movement.
You mean the best CrossFit coach in the world that can do the points of performance at every barbell resistance training lift, but then ask them to explain the biomechanics of the gait cycle. Yeah. And it's not there. Like, I know it's definitely still not there for me. I felt like this is all I've ever done with my life. This is all I ever know. And I couldn't explain what my body, like from an anatomical position or a kinesthetic position, what it was happening when I ran. And that really bothered me. And that's all I've been doing. I film myself running. I watch myself running. I watch film of other people running and slow it down. And after a while, you're like, oh, I can figure this out, but I just have to do it. But running was like, just send them out for a 200-meter run. And I can like fuck around on my phone as a coach while they're out of that 200-meter run. Right. I know I'm running over on you guys. I apologize. I don't want to jam you guys up.
You're good.
Listen,
I was just trying to remind myself what I did for hybrid Murph. I looked it up. It was partition anyway, 2-mile run, 150 wall balls, 75 push-ups, and 50 kettlebell swings. It's good. And
so let's talk about it. So do you guys, are you guys pressed for shit? Do you get the jam for a little bit more?
Yeah.
All right. CrossFit, one of the key lines. You guys obviously took your level 1s and shit.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You remember like volume isn't impressive, intensity is?
Yeah.
I put that up there with like program for the best and scale for the rest in the category of shut the fuck up. This is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like volume absolutely is impressive. I think volume that becomes sloppy isn't impressive, but you're telling me there's not something impressive about an ultra marathon or like, again, Murph is a volume-based play. That's a volume set of reps, hundreds of reps. Like I believe volume is impressive. And I think that's been the thing in CrossFit. It's Fran. It's quick and fast and dirty. It's a screen door and a hurricane. And now we're seeing like, but the CrossFit Games, that is completely anaerobic. But you see those events that they're doing and you're like, that is far more strength endurance based training than it is HIIT, the phosphagen and the quick glycolytic system.
Well, and most people don't, the more skill you have, the shorter the time domain, the more skilled you have to be in order to get a good effect, get training effect from it. And so the majority of your members aren't skilled enough to get anything out of a 6-minute workout.
Yeah.
So like, you're totally not even going to get what they talk about, the stimulus and all that stuff. But if you have a 6-minute AMRAP of whatever, they're not gonna, you have to be a very advanced athlete to be able to get to that area.
I think like the shorter the workout, the more people get away of being unfit and like, you know what I mean? It's like, here's a volume workout. Anybody out there listening, do this challenge. 10 rounds, 100 calorie echo bike, 100 sandbag lunges, 70-pound sandbag for guys. What is that for girls?
I guess it'd be 45, 50.
But each round being the same. Like the pacing that you learn in these long workouts is like, you don't get on the bike and go crazy. And then the last round, you're like dying, 70 RPMs the whole time, 60, whatever, like hold it the same the whole time.
Yeah. Putting an intent to the workout.
Right.
And it's the mentality behind it too. And so that's something that I've learned so much about myself with also the half Ironman training is your mind, it can go in a lot of dark places when you want to quit. But when you have a 10-round workout, learning how to just keep going and mentally be strong, I think that there's so much value in that.
That's beautiful. That's the most beautiful thing to me. Like and you get it when you do the High Rocks race. Every time you do it, there's like this different challenge. Like you think you're prepared, and it's just, I always like relate it to life. Like you think you have your shit figured out, and then the moment you do, you're gonna get slapped across the face. So same thing that race. Like, oh man, I did my running, I did this. You get out there and like this sled isn't moving.
Yeah.
Then what? And every time it's a different story, and you're gonna get through that thing, and you're gonna be like, I did it. I learned something.
And for the gym, like with the sled thing, I get a lot of messages on, especially after coming back from High Rocks and putting up some content on it. And they're like, "Oh, the sled, that's not going to work for your operational capacity, Stu." I'm like, "You're right. For a studio that's 2,500 square feet, and we're trying to run 25 people a class, this sled in there is going to become extremely problematic." Quick solution. You can get some really good bungee bands or whatever. You get an eye hook to the wall and it puts it around someone's waist, like a nice strong band, and have them fucking sprint against the band. It creates a very similar horizontal force production, right? Have them hold something simultaneously, like holding a sandbag or holding a dumbbell in a crush grip and sprinting that way while the band's there. You get that same tension you get in your upper body as you're, leaning into the sled kind of scenario.
I did that. I did that with a client of mine. He has his gym and then he has his home gym. And I had a sled workout with him. He's like, I'm at the other gym. Like, what can I do? I'm like, do the banded thing. And he was like, holy shit. And he just killed him.
The bike is great for that too.
Oh,
Assault bike or echo bike is great for like output.
100%.
So like I mean, in the winter and we can't roll our sled out here in the driveway when it's shitty out, like I'll bike and I think that's a very good comparison to that feeling of like, if it's like a bike, like a 10 cal bike sprint, I think it's pretty similar. So
it's, 100%. Like I was talking to one kid at the gym. He's like, "Why don't you do class anymore?" I was like, "I'm training for the marathon. I've been doing these longer workouts." And later on, he said something and was asking about like carbs, and he's like, "How am I gonna do it? I need like 350 grams of carbs a day." He's like, "Fuck, I would kill the 350 grams of carbs a day or 400 grams of carbs a day. What do I have to do?" I'm like, "Work out for more than 9 to 15 minutes at a fucking time." Like, just like, again, like only a very specific kind of person can actually get the engine revving during that period of time, and efficiently and safely type scenario. And I believe you should do both, right? Like I still do all out short distance sprint effort type work. I still do heavy, like, 3 rep, like that kind of stuff. But this concept of being strong for long, this strength endurance type scenario, I'm so intrigued by. And it's been so funny how everything kind of like has just fallen, like my experiment in finding High Rocks and you guys and then the Rich Diaz thing. It's just like, holy shit, this is all like reconfirming. I truly think, I saw CrossFit in 06, 05. I was like, oh my God, I don't know what this thing is, but it's going to be fucking big. I just know it. Like I'll bet the farm on it, as so many people did. And then, but this concept of like strength endurance, I think is very, very interesting. There's very little white papers, any kind of PubMed or anything. Mel Siff did a little work on it, but it's really this unknown thing. And it's so impressive. Like watching what the hunter, hunters are doing of the world, being able to, go sub 56 minutes or whatever it is that he's done in there, and some of these other guys, and even on the OCR side, like these VJ Jones kids, and like this whole world of strength endurance. Where do you guys, like, for the sport, for people listening that are into it, like, do you believe, and I believe I asked Mo this question, and the growth in the states, do you think you're going to keep in the same city? Or like, is the plan to add a city every couple of years? Are there certain markets you're already looking at?
I mean, the idea is we're always wanting to grow. So obviously people ask me that all the time. And right now we're focusing on the markets I listed, but we're always trying to be in every major city. So the more we can build these current markets, and as we get more affiliates and more major cities, we're only going to continue to add, like we have to get to that level. Do you want to add anything?
We're definitely going to go to where the demand is, right? So a lot of these gyms that are not near a race city, they're like, why would I affiliate? It's like, create the demand, and like, we're going to go to a city that like there's 50 affiliate gyms that like we know when we announce the date, like there's going to be 4,000 people there. So these people to be the pioneer, and don't wait, man. People wait, and like for CrossFit, like how many of these people that pay $3,000 a year wish they could pay the 500?
Sure. I talked to you guys. I'm like, I love that you guys are not trying to be a fitness methodology. You're the event, and you're sitting there seeing, who's going to produce, what methodology is going to produce the best Hyrox athletes, right? And we're open to all ideas, and it's cool to see people who are combining different things and doing different kinds of workouts to create a different, an adaptation to do well at a Hyrox. CrossFit gyms, when the affiliation took off like wildfire, it was because there was a religion to it, aka a methodology, something that they could stand on, they could argue against, they could see the flaw of go to Globo Gym, resistance train on machines, and then get on an elliptical, and that separation of resistance and conditioning. And Glassman just kind of blended it all together with the functional movements. With you guys creating like the wildfire growth of the affiliate model, with knowing that, hey, a lot of people, the hang up is there's not a race nearby type scenario. Have you guys ever considered, I looked at, I deck on, I had Yancey and Preston on the podcast, and we were talking, and, they do all that stuff obviously inside the gyms. They don't have a big venue necessarily, as big of events like you guys have from that perspective. Most of the events that are happening that are DECA fit, a lot of them are happening at gyms, right? Have you guys looked into doing anything that's like kind of a digital, like a bunch of gyms can participate? Because no one ever said no to a CrossFit affiliate. Like, well, the games are only in Wisconsin or in California. Like that, you never heard anyone say that, but it's because they had the methodology to buy into.
Yes, we are working on something that we're going to kick off this summer, and I don't want, should I go into details or not?
I don't want to get you. Yeah, I don't want you to get you in trouble, Mo.
Basically, like the idea is we want to bring business to affiliates, and it'll be competitions that can only be done at Hyrox affiliates.
Yeah, and we want to make sure the event stays to its value, right? It's amazing. So it's like, for example, like Ironman, you go to an Ironman sanctioned event, it is the tits, right? And then you go to like local one, you're like, it's not the same. So we want to make sure you come to the Hyrox event, it is always the same. And we don't want to start watering it down by doing it in gyms.
Well, and then not saying that we are doing this summer. And so just another way, like I mentioned, we're always trying to add value to the affiliates and to create something when there's not an event immediately coming up. Because typically if we're in a city, we'll be there every 6 months. So what are you going to do in this right after your event? It's like, what's next? So we're trying to create that. So it's coming soon. I
look at a problem, and the problem is I want Hyrox affiliate growth. And then the solution, initially, my strategy has to be, do I go B2B to the gyms, or do I go B2C? The gyms aren't buying in at the rate I want. I think I get the general public to buy in at a faster rate. And the more the general public buys in, the more these guys like, okay, I'm hearing a lot of people talk about how much is it to be one of these things. So on my Google SEO, it pops up that they can train here. Do you guys ever talk about that? Like, okay, at some point, if we're just banging our head against the wall in certain markets, switch the strategy and let's go fucking all in on B2C and create the buzz. Cause there's far more likelihood of random people getting into it and training for it, and it become, growing, and then Jim's here like, oh, hey, do you guys train High Rocks here? And like, 15 times over in 2 months, Jim was like, no, what the fuck is he talking about? What is that?
Yeah.
Have you guys ever talked about like the back and forth between B2B and B2C?
Yeah, for sure. And like the other options, you don't have to have a brick and mortar. You can be a certified trainer and train people online, and like online is huge right now. So like that's actually happening a lot where people are like, I'm a certified trainer. I can train these people, like, and they train 20 people all signed up for the event. Right. And then this guy's like that trained under whatever. I want to be one of those guys now too. And like, that's going to spread faster than like, a gym. So like we go both, but like, when someone does an event, they're bought in. They're like, I want to do this thing. I have some friends I can train. Like, how do I get certified?
Yeah. I mean,
still some people don't know about the affiliation program. So like just trying to not only get the High Rocks name out, but like letting people know that they can be an affiliate as well. And like, this is what you get with it. So that's just another thing that
affiliation is what, it's $1,200 a year.
Yeah, they can, most of our gyms pay monthly. So it's $110 a month for our gyms. Yeah.
Got it. And it's just, that's like a year-to-year agreement, very similar to the CrossFit affiliate license agreement. Okay.
Yep.
And like, what are the restricted things? What things can't you do? Like CrossFit had a lot of, you can't do these things. Can't host a CrossFit event, like whatever. You can essentially use the name. You got to have it on the website. What do you guys, are there any things you require or any things you don't allow?
If you're an affiliate gym, if you're the owner, you can come to the academy and get your coaches certified. But the coaches, they're only like affiliated within your walls. So that coach that came to the academy couldn't go out and like
start his online company.
Yeah. So that's one big one, but there's no requirements. Is there anything you want to?
No, like unlike Deca, they need the equipment for affiliation. Like we don't. We recommend that everybody does have a certain amount of sleds or not, but like the program we write, we can change it for whatever the gym is.
And I just encourage them to reach out to me, and because I wanted to support. I don't know if that was answering the question.
The way that it is now, though, I mean, like, because it is like in the beginning stages, like we have one-on-one contact with these people. We like to consult with them, like, hey, what is your gym, and like, how can we help you? And really, like, we want to make sure that we can help them on the business side of things within this academy, not just here's methodology, blah, blah, blah. Like, how is this going to help you and how can you use it?
Do you guys have someone who is like right now, I'd be like, man, I need to get Matt Choi. I need to get BPN. I need to get Nick Bear. I need to get there's a bunch of names. I need to get a Casey Klein. I need to get like these individuals who have good respective followings. They're typically endurance athletes and like a very grassroots kind of influencer, because even those guys, like all those influencers, that they're always thinking, what's the next video? What's the next thumbnail? Like, that's it. They're a fucking dance monkey. You got a video out. Cool. 24 hours, fucking dance again. Like any influencer, that is the name of the game. And for those guys, if it's always the same shit, if Matt Choi keeps constantly just preparing for the next marathon videos, again, it's going to get a little but like, hey, this High Rocks company reached out to me and I'm training for this cool thing. I think it's awesome. I consider myself a hashtag hybrid athlete. I mean, I'd be literally searching hashtag hybrid athlete and fucking DMing every motherfucker who uses that.
Yeah. I mean, and like just anybody that because that's like the thing right now, like the challenge of, hey, I'm a strength athlete. I'm going to go do this run thing. Right. And here's like a mix of both. Right. So like it's a little bit lower barrier to entry. Like if you go like full running, I think it's a little scary for the strength athlete, but Marc Bell, I can see him doing this, right? Like,
sure.
He's like, oh man, I'm into this thing. I can still get my, high lifting weights and pushing sleds and whatnot. Like Ryan Hall, like Nick Bear, I could definitely see him. He's doing the bodybuilding thing now, but he could do it. Like there's definitely a lot of guys out there, like Alex Viata, like Alec Blenis did it last year in Chicago.
In January.
Yeah, in January.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of these guys coming out, and it's just they're naturally going to draw more people into it because it's such a fun experience.
But yeah, we need that person, I would love to have.
I mean, when you do your first,
so Jess and I were talking about. I was like, fuck, as soon as as soon as the Chicago Marathon's done, I'm gonna need something else on there. I'll absolutely come do a High Rocks, 1,000%.
In New York in June. You don't need to wait till the marathon.
I'll be in Ireland.
Oh,
I'll be in Ireland.
Nice.
Yeah. But I did look at the calendar. The only one that was a maybe was the Anaheim one. And I'd have to really cram that in on a weekend trip. But I did look at it.
Yeah.
So guys, I'm very bullish on all of this, and we'll talk after this, but I love this idea. I love it like for the concept of high rocks, but I love it more so because I truly think the micro gym industry, the functional fitness group scene industry needs this. It needs fitness racing, functional fitness racing to be a thing. Otherwise, everything we do is just like, just what I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's just like I go to that gym and I do it. And if you want to keep people invested and spend more money, put something on the calendar. I think that's what OCR and Spartan races did. I had so many members train for Spartan races when it was super popular, Warrior Dash and some of the smaller brand version ones. And when Spartan would come into Charlotte, and damn, they were into it. Or like they were doing a Go Ruck challenge. They signed up for a thing. And in gym, any CrossFit gym listening to this, when your members get signed up for the open, no one's canceling. That's why I always run price increases or price corrections on the membership right after the open, because they're all excited. They're pumped. They've had great community experience. It's like people are excited about it. But imagine if you had this thing, you had multiple of these things to train for. It allows you to tap into the endurance community. I just see so many pluses to it. And I'm going to keep making more content about the benefits of looking at fitness racing and what High Rocks is doing for your gym, regardless of what kind of brand or fitness methodology you utilize. But I'm a huge fan of you two, just personally as humans. I'm so glad we got to hang out, and Lauren decided to go get a little sick while I was visiting, and we couldn't hang out even more.
I know.
Lauren had it's called a grand mal seizure.
Yeah.
Jesus, that was so crazy. And you were back up the next fucking day there with
Well, I couldn't miss the elite race. But yeah,
and then
it was
what? Crazy. 3 weeks later, you did your Berkey. What's it called? The fucking
2 weeks. The American Birkebeiner. So it's the biggest ski race in North America, and most people don't even know what cross country skiing is. But it's 50K, so that's like 31 miles of skiing up and down and around.
Just to frame it up, like I meet you, you're in a boot, you had an accident, whatever. You're working your dick off the night before the fucking race, and then you had this horribly tragic, you had a seizure leaving the complex. Good thing Marc was with you, but it was a very scary, tragic. I mean, it was just absolutely crazy. You're in the hospital. I'm texting with Marc. I mean, people are giving you daps and checking on you on social media, like a lot of great reaction. And then I see you that day later on for the elite race, and you're there. And then 3 weeks later, I see you did that cross-country ski event. And I was like, what the fuck? This chick is fucking Terminator. Just absolutely. I was so blown away. It's such a testament to what a fucking badass you are.
Well, thank you. It was actually like a really, really hard decision whether or not I should do that race. And because it's scary. I mean, when it was the whole thing was very scary. And then like afterwards, like it could happen anytime, because I don't know what triggered it. And so a lot of people didn't necessarily think it was the best idea to go do this race. And my concern was mostly like, okay, if I collapse like halfway through in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, like can medical get to me? And I just like don't want to freeze to death, or so I really definitely had to like kind of face my fears and do it, but I knew that I would be disappointed if I didn't. And with Chicago, I mean, I can just tell my brain is like addled still from that, because I don't remember it that well. But I was bummed I didn't get to hang out with you more, because we were so psyched to have you in town.
I know. I will be back up. I'll probably be up even before the marathon at some point. I love Chicago. We weren't even there long enough. It was such a whirlwind last minute trip. Yeah, I was born there. I've never been back. That was my first time. There? Yeah, I was born there. I literally was born, popped out of Susan. We were there for like a week. He was just there. My dad was there on a consulting trip, and it just happened there. And then I've never been back. Wow. So that was my first foray back. So,
oh my goodness. What?
I will definitely be returning, but
oh my goodness, that's crazy.
I know if anyone is wanting to get in touch with you guys, they would like to ask questions, whether it's about, everything we discussed in the beginning or things to do with High Rocks and affiliation. What is the best way for them to get in contact with you?
I would say probably Instagram message. And my email is pretty easy to remember too. And what would you say?
Same Instagram.
I'll have all that in the show notes. I'll have emails down there. I'll have the Instagram handles down there. Reach out. These are two amazing humans that I'm very proud and honored to call my friends now. And I'll be watching the continued success and growth of High Rocks that you guys are kind of leading the charge on. So keep kicking ass, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.